Good morning, good afternoon. My name is Marcelo Dantas. I'm a geographer of the Geological Survey of Brazil, and I will initiate the presentation now. Well, it's a great satisfaction to participate to the Congress of Geologia 2021, the 14th Congresso de Geologia in Cuba. The title of the work is The Use of Regolith Maps within Geodiverse Assessments, a methodological proposal for territorial management in Brazil. The work is mine, Marcelo Dantas, and my colleague, Maria Angélica Barreto Ramos, a geologist of Geological Survey of Brazil. The concept, what means geodiversity? Geodiverse is the study of the abiotic nature composed by a variety of environments and geological processes that originate landscapes, rocks, fossils, soils, waters, and regolith that favor the development of life on Earth, having as main values the culture, arts, economics, science, education, and tourism. It's a broad concept. The method, the geodiverse map, consists of a reinterpretation of the geological map based on the simplification and regrouping of the lithostratigraphic units in the geological environmental units with similar characteristics and which have the same meaning regarding the land use and the territorial management. Here we have a diagram block which have the integrated analysis of geology, the geological units, the landforms, and the soils that developed all over the landforms. Then we have an integrated analysis with geology, geomorphology, and pedology. And this approach provides the identification of the characteristics of landscape in order to indicate the potentialities and limitations of each terrain in relation of following aspects: geological, geotechnical parameters for civil works, water resources, mineral resources, agriculture, and geotourism and geological heritage. This premise served as the basis for the development of the geodiversity mapping and to supply to several social segments a translation of the geological and scientific knowledge, promoting a better and more rational territorial planning. This is the first map generated during this period between 2018 and 2017. These are the geodiverse maps of the states of Brazilian Federation. Here we have the geodiverse map of the Amazon, that was the most large state of Brazilian Federation, for example. And we have an example of analysis of a geological environmental unit. This is a limestones. The limestones in this diagram block, we have in blue. We have also other light lithologies in this block. We have here dikes of diabase, shales, but the limestones, we have a flattened surface with karst features like dolinas. The dolinas in the landscape were present here and characterize this geological environmental unit with great potential for agriculture because we have soils of high fertility. but we also have a great vulnerability to the aquifer. Thus, this hydrogeological parameter is a great limitation for the type of agriculture that means that we've made in this region because the contamination. Then we have here the regolith, the concept. The regolith consists of a broader term since it represents the entire surface layer of the Earth, which includes the set of horizons of the alteration profiles, sediments, and soils formed by weathering, erosion, transport, and deposition. Deplocation. The Geological Survey of Brazil introduced this theme in the studies of environmental geology and geodiversity. As such, the concept of regolith encompasses the entire coverage of decomposed material overlying the bedrock, which may be of autochthonous, alloctonous, or secondary regenesis, new-formed materials like laterite, calcretes, for example. Here we have a diagram block of the regolith landscape in central Brazilian plateau. We have the higher surfaces called chapadas or mesetas that are sustained by lateritic iron dirty crust. Below the surface, we have an entire weathering profile of lateritic profile. We have the mottled horizon and the development of the landscape controlled by the regolith. In this region, we have I dissected the hilly morphology with shallow soils, shallow regoliths, where the erosion process are predominant, and there you go. We have here the regolith landscape structure. On the left, we have old surface like plateaus. The plateaus, we have a generation of a thick and mature regolith in tropical regime. We have the formation of iron crust horizon, and below a lateritic iron dirty crust, and below the basaltic crust, a material profile. And we have the weathered rock and the bedrock. This is common in central Brazil. And the hilly and mountains and aligned ridges in southeastern Brazil, we have regoliths less developed when we have soil, colluvium, weathered saprolites, and bedrock. And on the valley bottoms, we have a set of depositional, quaternary depositional sediments, like colluvial ramps, fluvial tiras, and floodplains. We have here common types of regolith profiles, poor developed to high developed in Brazilian tropical regime. We have here an example, a geological and geomorphological integrated analysis in São Fidélis town in north of Rio de Janeiro state, in a region, a mountainous region. We have here a complex geology of this town. We have here the geomorphology, alternating mountain in blue and hilly relief in red, in green. And here hypsometric maps showing the relief of high altitudes in southern portion of this municipality. Here in these colors, we have predominance of paragneiss, and here in pink layer we have a predominance of granitic rocks, and there are a correlation on the hilly and ridge and lined ridges morphology. We have a field photo of this type of the terrain, the aligned ridges, with a well-structured position. And here we have an example of the landforms and process over granitoid rocks, steep slopes, thin soils, shallow soils, on mountainous landscapes is a characteristic common here. And the process more common are the rock falls and the shallow landslides. On the other hand, over the paragneiss landforms process generates gentle slopes, thick soils on hilly landscapes. When we have a predominance of slumps, landslides that remove thick soils, or sheet erosion, superficial or stonian erosion. We have here a thick soil over 5 meters. And here we have a typical association between relief, morphology, the soils, and the regolith. Here we have a slope, a hill slope, with the saprolite. Over saprolite, we have a colluvium with abrupt contact. In flattened surfaces, these conditions do not occur. Here in mountainous conditions, we have a deposition of thick slope deposits. Here we have the area font, the source area, and here we have a ramp, a slightly slope with blocks on the surface and blocks between the deposits, showing a colluvium with blocks, almost a talus deposits. Here we have an integrated analysis of physical biotic environmental. It's a profile, a transverse profile in northeastern Brazil. Here we have the humid portion of Borborema plateau. We have here the top of Borborema. Here we have the semi-arid zone of Borborema. And then we have a climatic parameter that differentiates distinct landscapes in this region. We have here the western semi-arid slope of Borborema Plateau in this point, called Sertão, flattened surface peneplain with intermittent rivers, shallow and poor developed regolith and soils with sand to gravelly texture, and caatinga shrub vegetation with secular extensive livestock. And the top of Borborema Plateau, called Agreste, we have a flattened surface, the older dissected peneplain, uplifted above 700 meters high, landscape intermediate between the Zona da Mata and Sertão, Agreste mixed vegetation with secular diversified agriculture. Then we have from 2018 the advent of geodiversity maps on target areas. The geodiversity of states were ended, and we have the studies the regional to semi-detailed scale analysis, 50 to 100,000 scale. We have here the insertion of Regolith studies on landscape integrated analysis, the identification and the mapping of geodiversity hotspots, and assessment of areas with intense social spatial dynamics. For example, we have here the tablelands morphology landscape with soils, well-drained soils, well-drained mature soils. In this case, we have here oxy soils, and the type of land use that will promote over these terrains. We have here the identification and mapping of the geodiverse hotspots, the study of areas with remarkable diversity of landscape elements combined with its biodiversity, geotouristic potential and the occurrence of geosites with relevance for geoconservation and geological heritage, and territorial planning directed to the local development with focus on the sustainable exploitation of natural resources. We have here the assessment of areas with intense social spatial dynamics, areas where the rhythm of social and economical transformation of the geographic space is accelerated, populate the areas or zones of great economical potential that experience a process of accelerated and disordered occupation, resulting in areas of strong environmental degradation, and territorial management aiming assessment of land use distortions for the purpose of environmental restore. We have here then the new hotspots in the study, the consolidated hubs for tourist activities. We have here some examples. Large urban areas, the metropolitan regions, metropolis, mining districts and their influence zone, and irrigated agriculture areas. Then tourism, urbanization, mineration, and agriculture. The insertion of Regolith Analysis on geodiversity studies. Starting the study of the regolith landscape, the methodological approach is improved and consists of a geological, geomorphological, pedological compartmentation of the terrains together with elements of morphostratigraphic analysis and of intrinsic properties of saprolites and soils. And the method. The regolith analysis is done by the study of weathering profiles, which often reach tens of meters in thickness and present a remarkable internal variability. As such, the mere mention of the occurrence of the bedrock underlying a deep and diversified regolith adds little to understanding of the local landscape. The regolith is important to a more comprehension of the landscape, or better comprehension. We have here an interesting example. The south coast of Pernambuco state in northeastern Brazil. We have here a potential for socioeconomic development with employment generation and income distribution based on the exploitation of the regional geotourism potential. We have here geomorphological mapping, and here we have some field photos with the beautiful landscapes of the sea coast that were promoted by tourism. We have here beaches, reefs, mangroves. We have two domains in this region: the Zona da Mata, forest zone, the predominance of new Proterozoic granitic plutons interspersing with basement rocks, orthogneisses and quartzites, and the occurrence of Cretaceous and Neogenous poorly lithified sedimentary rocks in inland portion of the study area. And the coastal plain, close to the sea, a set of quaternary depositional environments represented by marine terraces, estuaries, mangroves, swamps, beaches, and reefs. And here we can see the importance, the insertion of the Regolith Analysis on geodiversity studies. We can see a hill with approximately 80 meters of high, and the hillside we have a strong cut showing us a thick regolith with about 40 meters the width. We have on the top the red, yellow, old soils with 2 or 3 meters thick. In pink, we have a strongly weathered saprolite, and gray, we have saprolite less weathered. And close to the road, we have the outcrop of the bedrock, granitoids. But the fact that we have here a granitoid seems little information to the region. It's important we comprehend and analyze the regolith structure of this region. We have here regolith profiles of tens of meters of thick. It's important to study. We have here another examples. In left, we have here a shallow regolith with bedrock close to the surface, 2 meters only, on a granite extremely resistant to the weathering and erosion. We have here a weather profile of sedimentary rocks, layers, beds of different compositions and different colors. It's a beautiful outcrop of the Barreiras group in Pernambuco. And here on the right, we have a most thick layer of regolith in this region. With here we have a superficial A horizon organic related to the plantation of sugarcane, most common in this region. We have then humid climates, a hilly morphology, a strong chemical weathering, and deep soils. Yet traditional economic activity based on sugarcane plantations. We have here the sugarcane on a hilly morphology. Here below we have an older structure, manufacturing the sugarcane and producing the sugar, called engenho. Here we have the small towns situated on Zona da Mata region suffer from chronic problems of economic growth and sanitation. Poor cities and have hilly relief sustained by granitic rocks, generating in some cases steep slopes and risky areas for landslides. We have this problem also. Then we have here the Guadalupe Beach. The Guadalupe Beach is a geosite with geological, geomorphological, and stratigraphic relevance for geological heritage. We have here cliffs exposing sedimentary rocks of Cretaceous age, We have here marine terrace of Pleistocene age. We have here problems of erosion, coastal erosion. And these beaches, Tamandaré and Carneiros Beach, are one of the most popular beaches for tourism in Nordeste region in Pernambuco State. Then how to increase a tourism activity in a sustainable way. We have here another example, the metropolitan region of São Paulo in southeastern Brazil, the most, the biggest metropolis in South America. We have here a geological context of remarkable complexity, including orthogneiss, paragneiss, shales, quartzites, and deformed granitoids flowing the western, southwestern, eastern, northeastern, this direction, regional trends of the folded Ribeira belt, poorly lithified sedimentary rocks of Neogene age of São Paulo and Taubaté basins, and the largest floodplains of the Tietê rivers here in this direction. The reservoirs of the upper Tietê water supply systems, a strategic water reserve for supplying the São Paulo metropolitan region. The importance of conserving this rainforest on headwaters, and river margins. Water is most important for a population, for a city, urban area of more than 13 million people. Then is a strategic resource for the region. And the large floodplain of the Tietê River, it's an important farming belt of metropolitan region of São Paulo. It's also an important sand deposit for civil construction that a metropolis is most important, the mineral resources. And have here also a riparian forest that close to the river is a preservation area. And also we have an urban vector growth to the floodplains. Ou seja, it's an area of land use, conflicts, and interests. This regolith, this alluvium profile is very interesting. We have the upper bed. We have soil with great organic matter. It's used to agriculture. And below we have fluvial sediments of great importance for sand mining. We have here in same place, in same area, in same regolith profile, two different uses for the floodplain of Tietê River, to the agriculture and to the mining. Then the istosoil, this upper level of the Tietê River floodplain, is a potential pedosite that can be elucidate the late Quaternary geological history of the upper Tietê River Valley. Ou seja, we have here also an important document for the geological heritage. We have also an example of North Brazil, the northeastern coast of Pará State, the large coastal plain in coastal microtide environmental. The tablelands of Barreiras Formation, restricted areas composed by a diversified set of lithology of São Luís Craton. We have here the microtide mangrove coast of Amazon. This is the region, is the most extensive occurrence of mangroves, continuous occurrence of mangroves on the entire world. we have in these places 5 to 6 meters of daily tidal range. Here, in this photo, low tide, here is high tide. Low tide, high tide. Here we have the port of São João de Pirabas. Yeah, here we have the Reisabá Beach, this place. We have the occurrence of Pirabas, the outcrop, Pirabas limestone in abrasion platform emerged during the low tide. In high tide, it was submerged. And this was the geological and paleontological geosite of international relevance with the occurrence of the marina biota of the great importance to comprehend of the Miocene and Oligocene marine animals of the northern portion of South America continent. And here we have the Serra do Piriá. Serra do Piriá is this small plateau. It's a small plateau sustained by its mature lateritic formation. It's a geosite of geological, geomorphological, and mining relevance. Here we have the top of the plateau with iron dura crust that represents in the regolith profile in this portion 9 meters of the thickness. This area is where mining in this region, and below we have a bauxitic horizon, aluminum bauxitic horizon development, showing that the surface we have at least some 10 of millions of the stability to form this type of mature lateritic regoliths. And then we have the final remarks. The importance of the analysis of the regolith correlated with geodiversity studies is emphasized for the improvement of geological mapping and for the multi-thematic analysis of the landscape applied to the territorial management and assessment of mineral resources. Thank you, and muchas gracias.